Hey there everyone, my name is Mikael Trench, and I'm a stop motion animator and video editor living here in Atlanta. I've been making stop motion since I was about 12, creating a variety of short films and animations with the medium. Recently I graduated from the Savannah College of Art and Design here in Atlanta with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Animation, where I was heavily involved in bringing awareness of stop motion onto campus, and I created my own senior film there, To Love a Ladybug, which is now screening in festivals. As for my connection with VOX, I volunteered there for a long time before becoming the first ever multimedia video editor back in 2016, and it's an experience that really shaped my filmmaking styles and habits. They actually also helped me get a mentor for my senior project in high school, where I created a short film called The Tree That Refused to Fall. Stop motion is a very exciting and rewarding form of filmmaking, and it's been around since the beginning of cinema, and it's very easy to do nowadays with very simple supplies that more than likely you have on hand. So today I'm going to show you ways to make very simple stop motion animations and get you started. First, we'll get into the swing of it by just animating a random object, and then we'll move on to doing a more simple character test. So what is stop motion animation? Basically, it's this form of animation where you have a physical object. It could be a puppet, it could be just some random object or something, and you go ahead and move it one frame at a time. So every time you move the object, you're going to take a picture of that object, and you move it again and you take a picture, and so on and so forth, and you take a number of these photos until you get your final animation. And when you play them all back together at a certain speed, it looks like it's moving. And it's been used, like I said, for a very long time, since the early days of film. It's been used for special effects stuff in movies like King Kong or Clash of the Titans, and it's of course been used for more modern and well-known animated films like Nightmare Before Christmas, Coraline, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Kubo and the Two Strings. The list goes on, and it's a very versatile and beloved medium for many reasons. So what do you need? Well, first off, you're going to need a camera. There are many different options for this. More experienced artists use DSLR cameras. I personally have been using this lovely Canon Rebel T6 myself, but you can also get a lot out of simple webcams. They work really well for beginners, but you can actually utilize your smartphone cameras as well. So along with a camera, you'll also need a stop motion software or grabber to capture the frames that you shoot. If you're using a DSLR camera or webcam, you'll be attaching the camera's USB cord to the computer or laptop that you're using, and then that's going to feed all the images into that software onto the computer. There are a variety of softwares out there. There are simple free ones like Monkey Jam or iStopMotion, which of course you can only get on Macs. And then there are more advanced options such as Dragon Frame or Stop Motion Pro, which is basically anything you see big studios using. For smartphone users, however, we'll be using the free Stop Motion Studio app. It's a really great option for beginners. I actually use this on a lot of my earlier projects. It's very versatile, and you can actually get quite a lot out of it for a stop motion app. And so yeah, for the purposes of this tutorial, we're just going to be using a smartphone and the Stop Motion Studio app. So after this, you're going to need something to actually hold your camera with. This is a really important thing, because if you bump your camera or something like that, it's very, very easy to see in the animation, and it's going to make it look really, really unprofessional. For this tutorial, I'm going to be utilizing this smartphone grip, but there are also a variety of tripods out there for DSLR cameras and smartphones, as a matter of fact. But just make sure, again, whatever you're getting is going to work for your camera, and it's going to be nice and sturdy so we're not bumping the camera or anything like that. And finally, you're just going to want some lights and then somewhere to shoot, of course. For the purposes of this tutorial, we're just going to use some simple desk lamps. Having about 2 or 3 is usually the best option, because you can, of course, light your subject more evenly, but one won't kill you or anything like that, of course, as long as you can see it clearly and get decent image quality. But what we don't want to use ever is window light. Since the sun is going to be changing its position, and animation's a slow process, and you are going to see that change and shift of position, it's going to change your lighting throughout your animation, so we're not going to really want to try that out. As for a set, we're just going to be utilizing this basic white backdrop I have. It's a little used up, as you can see, but of course there are different ways you can build sets and props and things like that, but since we're focusing on just animating here, we're just going to utilize this simple backdrop. So with your supplies set up, we can start animating. We're going to start off with a simple object, so I'm just going to use this cup. So you're going to get your camera set up on your tripod or grip, and then open up the Stop Motion Studio app, add a new movie and click on the camera icon in the top right corner. The process is pretty simple, so I usually start with a few empty frames, about 5 to 10, just empty photos of nothing really moving so far. It's just the object standing still, and it just sort of allows for the object to kind of breathe a little bit, and it lets the viewer sort of take in the scene before the action happens. After that, you'll go ahead and just start moving your subject just a little bit and just go ahead and take a picture. And I usually start with these smaller moves that kind of ease you into the action a little bit more. And then towards the middle, you make bigger moves as it sort of accelerates. And then as it reaches the end, we're just going to ease out a little bit more to kind of ease you out of the action with, again, some smaller moves. So just keep doing this, taking photos with each object move that you do until you're at the end, however long that may be. So once you're done, we're going to go back to this menu, and you're basically going to start changing the frames per second. So frames per second basically is just the number of pictures you see for every second of video or animation. The higher that frame number is, the faster and smoother your animation will usually look, but that usually means it takes more photos to fill up the time, because otherwise it's going to go by in the blink of an eye. The lower the count means you can take less photos to fill time, and sometimes that works if you're trying to get like a heavier look or feel for your subjects, but the animation will usually be more jerky looking. A good place for beginners to start is usually on 2s, so that's usually between like 10 to 12 frames per second. It still comes out pretty decently smooth without requiring as many images as 24 frames per second. So yeah, that's our animation over there of the cup. So let's just have a little bit of fun and animate a very simple character. I created this little snake here out of clay, so let's try and work with him. I wouldn't recommend doing a 2 or 4-legged character yet, as walk cycles take a lot of time to grasp. So we're just going to have our little friend here slither across the screen. Like before, I usually like starting with some empty frames, just showing the environment. And then we have him start to slink into the scene bit by bit. The challenge here is keeping his little body in flow to replicate how a snake actually moves. If it helps, go ahead and watch some videos of snakes slithering or whatever movement you're trying to replicate to get a good reference for your action. Even professional animators often do this to get really solid performances and believable actions for their characters. So just keep going with it until you're satisfied, have him complete the action, go back to the menu, play with your frames per second as desired, and there you go. So whether you're out there animating a cup, a clay snake, or a giant monster, more than anything, just remember to enjoy the process, push yourself, and have plenty of fun. Happy creating, guys.